My name is Everett Calhoun. I'm 31, and I'm the Vice President of Strategic Operations at Axiom MergeWorks, though in my family, that title means less than a dinner invitation. I come from the Calhoun line, one of Seattle's oldest private capital dynasties, but I've never worn the crown. That privilege was handed to my older siblings, the loud ones, the polished ones, the ones who knew how to smile through a lie. I was the quiet one, the forgotten one, the spare in case the heirs failed. And yet, I'm the one who uncovered what they were willing to destroy to keep their thrones. A week ago, my name barely registered in the boardroom. Today, it's the only one left on the door. It all started with a slap that wasn't meant for me but ended everything for him. The boardroom smelled like money and fake loyalty. Sleek walls, cold air, $32 million of art hanging in sterile silence. Killian Hayden sat at the head of the table like a monument no one dared touch. He didn't look at me. He didn't need to. Power never blinks first. I stood. Clicked the remote. Slide 1 loaded. Behind me, the harbor bled gray through glass. The kind of view that makes people forget how much they're bleeding inside. Logistics isn't dying, I said. It's evolving. You can pivot with Axiom, or you can pray Omnicore doesn't circle back after bleeding you dry. Silence. Eyes shifting. Notes scribbled. And then. A voice. Dripping. Hey. Pause. Coffee. Now. Beckett Hayden. Firstborn. Executive in name. Parasite in practice. He leaned back in his chair, scrolling through his phone, not even bothering to look up. Excuse me? I didn't move. He waved a hand like I was a waiter. We're paying you enough. Make yourself useful, Junior. The silence after that was a different kind. The heavy kind. The kind that crawls under your skin and whispers, "Do not move." Marisol's hand froze above her notes. I felt her thumb press into the spine of her pen, pressure, control, maybe restraint. Killian looked up slowly. What did you just say to him? He asked, calm as frost. Beckett didn't flinch. He didn't hear the shift in the room. He never does. Narcissists rarely hear the snap until it's their neck. To the intern? Beckett shrugged. I said coffee. Or water. Or whatever. We have standards. The slap cracked like a gunshot. Killian stood. Fast. Too fast for a man with 2 hip replacements. His palm met Beckett's face with surgical precision. Gasps. A chair toppled. The security guard outside twitched. Beckett's phone flew. Hit the far wall. Landed face up. A silent black screen. Apologize, Killian said, low. Controlled. Deadly. What? Apologize to the VP of the firm you just insulted. The man we're trying to work with. Apologize or I disown you, right here, right now. Beckett clutched his cheek. His eyes went wild, not from pain, humiliation. You're siding with him? Killian didn't answer. He was looking at me. Mr. Calhoun, he said. You have my full attention. I nodded. Too late. Beckett turned to me. I'm sorry, he spat. Say it like you mean it, I replied. Or I'll bill this pause at $2,100 per minute. Your legacy can't afford that. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry, Everett. I stepped back. Switched slides. Let's continue. 10 minutes later, Beckett stormed out. Couldn't slam the door, the hydraulics made it close slow, soft, pathetic. Like his exit. I watched the glass swing shut behind him. I turned back to the room. Killian had collapsed into his chair, eyes shadowed, decades older in minutes. I apologize, he said, voice hoarse. That's not who we are. I closed the laptop. It's who he is, I said. And since you insisted he be on the transition board, it's who I'll be dealing with. He's spirited. Threatened. No. Entitled and incompetent. That's a different threat. I stood. We're done for today. But I need to reassess your valuation. I thought I was buying a manufacturing firm, not a daycare. I walked. No looking back. In the elevator, Marisol leaned against the glass. You didn't blink. I've had worse. Not from across the table. She pulled out her phone. Want me to dig into Beckett's online activity? Everything, I said. I want to know where he eats, who he follows, what podcasts he lies about listening to. Any specific threat level? He's not dangerous. She raised an eyebrow. He's desperate, I added. That's worse. As we walked through the underground garage, headlights flashed once across the far wall. Just once. Too long to be casual. Too short to be accidental. Marisol slowed. I didn't. Power doesn't flinch. Not yet. Beckett wants a war, I said, stepping into the elevator. Let's make sure he gets one, with interest. The silence after a public slap lasts longer than you think. It travels. Down the elevator shaft. Into headlines. Through the echo chamber of corporate rumor. And eventually, it lands, like shrapnel, on the wrong desks. By morning, 5 different sources had pinged Marisol's encrypted inbox. Beckett's not sulking, she said, not looking up. He's scheming. We were in Axiom's war room. No windows. 2 screens showed legal filings. One showed the Hayden board's last 5 financial quarters. The 4th showed Beckett's LinkedIn activity. He'd updated his headline. Chief Strategist. Future-proofing legacy. Unshackled. Unshackled. Never trust a man who writes his own press releases, I muttered. Marisol slid a flash drive across the table. This came anonymously. No return address. No metadata trail. I had it checked 3 ways before opening it. I plugged it in. 1 file. No label. I double-clicked. A video loaded. Fuzzy, low-res. Shot from behind a booth partition. Beckett. Laughing. Across from him sat a man I recognized instantly. Ray Nolan. Omnicore Logistics. Our most aggressive rival. The shark of acquisition. Beckett leaned forward in the video, conspiratorial. Dad doesn't know. But if Axiom thinks they're taking us over clean, we'll make the tech so toxic they can't touch it. My jaw tightened. The screen flickered. Beckett again. Slip them the IP. Tank the valuation. Bring in Omnicore with a rescue bid. We don't lose the company, we own it. I stood. Turned away from the screen. Marisol was already dialing. He's burning the deal from inside. And if the board finds out we knew and didn't act, they'll think we're complicit, I finished. I'll dig up Ray Nolan's last 6 acquisitions. See if this tactic has a pattern. Use the encrypted server. Keep everything off-grid. Cut scene. Downtown bar. 9:47 p.m. Shadows thick enough to bleed into. Lucian Hart waited in the corner booth. Black turtleneck. Tan trench coat. He looked like a disgraced professor who moonlit as a saboteur. I slid into the seat across from him. No pleasantries. You used to handle internal audits for Hayden, I said. You left without a whisper 2 years ago. Why? He sipped his whiskey. No ice. Eyes like fog. Because Beckett Hayden had a god complex. And he was using the maintenance budget like a personal ATM. I didn't blink. Prove it. He placed a manila envelope on the table. Shell companies. 3, maybe 4. Tied to Cayman Islands. Fake invoices for AI-integrated repair consulting. He leaned in. Ever hear of Glendon Partners LLC? I had. They billed Hayden $620,000 last quarter. For replacing a conveyor belt that didn't exist, Lucien said. Cut scene. Back at Axiom, Marisol paced. There's another wrinkle. Go. Beckett is building a platform, he's calling it Hayden Exchange. Claims it'll disrupt supply chain logistics using blockchain verification and real-time tracking. So buzzword soup with a side of vaporware. It gets worse. He's pitching it using Carrick Hayden's proprietary logistics architecture. It's not a spin-off. It's theft. I exhaled. Slowly. Ever notice how the worst people always overestimate the value of their own genius? She nodded. And underestimate how much trouble they're in. Cut scene. Back door of the Hayden building. A black van idled with no license plates. Not illegal, but not clean either. Inside, Beckett handed off a hard drive to someone in a gray suit. Security camera caught it. Frame 3127. We had it by midnight. Cut scene. Marisol flipped her notebook shut. We take this to the board, it gets messy. We leak it, we look like saboteurs. She steadied me. You ever think silence isn't a shield, but a scalpel? Silence is power, I said. But timing is everything. She smiled, barely. One of my mentors used to say, don't light the match unless you've already burned the bridge. Cut scene. I was walking to my car when I noticed it. The hood was warm. I hadn't driven since this morning. I turned, scanned the lot. Nothing. Then, movement. A figure ducked behind a column. I walked slowly. Calmly. I opened the passenger door. Pretended to check something. In the side mirror, I caught a reflection. Baseball cap. Hoodie. Standing still. Watching. I didn't engage. I walked. Made the call inside the car. Activate silent perimeter alert, I said. Zone B. Marisol's voice came through instantly. You saw him too? Yeah. Tracker? I'll check. Cut scene. Glove box. Beneath the old insurance papers. I found it taped under the lining. Small. Square. Blinking red. My pulse ticked up once. Then steadied. The closer you get to their secrets, the more they want to watch you. They think surveillance is control. But surveillance cuts both ways. He's not just trying to kill the deal, Marisol whispered. He's trying to kill you. Rain snapped against the skylight like a warning. Marisol had triangulated the source of the tracker. The signal bounced through a leased IP registered to Price Consulting, a dormant firm dissolved 3 years ago. Too clean. Too deliberate. You know what they say, she murmured. When something looks buried, check who benefits from the grave. Cut scene. I entered the Hayden estate from the south side. Killian's private wing. One security guard on duty. Familiar. Loyal. A look, a nod, I passed. His study smelled like antique ink and expired regret. Killian sat by the fire, not reading. Just staring at the flames. Whiskey in hand. Crystal. No ice. You're early, he said, not looking up. I found the shell firms Beckett used. He's rerouting supplier contracts through Cayman-controlled vendors. Double charging. One to Hayden's books, one to Hayden Exchange. Silence. Also, I continued, there's evidence of him negotiating with Omnicore to artificially tank your valuation before the Axiom deal closes. Still nothing. Killian, I said. You need to remove him from the board. Immediately. He finally turned. You think I didn't know? That paused me. You knew? I suspected. But you don't make a move against blood unless you're willing to finish it. Entirely. His voice was cracked stone, worn by decades of silence. My father once told me, betrayal doesn't start with knives, it starts with the benefit of the doubt. I placed the printed ledgers on his desk. You have 36 hours to act before this goes public. I'll hold the file till then. He didn't answer. But his grip on the glass tightened until it cracked. Cut scene. Marisol met me outside with bad news. We got hit, she said. Digital intrusion. Someone tried to access your legal draft folder. Failed, but they triggered the secondary trace. Source? She pulled up her tablet. A blip pulsed on the map. Hayden's internal counsel's home network. So Beckett has a mole inside legal. Or, she said, legal has already chosen sides. Cut scene. The next day, Killian called a family meeting. No press. No aides. Just blood and board members. Beckett walked in late. No apology. New suit. Sharp beard line. He knew something. That smirk wasn't born blind. Killian stood. There's been a shift in our governance structure. He took out a key. Unlocked the center drawer of his old desk. Pulled out a red leather folder. Tied shut with twine. No one breathed. This, he said, is a sealed clause in my original trust. He opened it. Slid a document across the table. I didn't move. Beckett did. You're kidding, he said. Killian looked at him. You were always the face, son. But never the spine. I read the clause. My name. Everett Calhoun. If the company faces existential risk due to internal malfeasance, the successor shall transfer by fiduciary override to the named Vice President of Strategic Operations. My throat closed for a second. You wrote this. Years ago? I asked. When your brother started talking about coin startups and revolutionizing legacy. I knew he'd burn the house to build a bonfire with his initials on it. Beckett lunged forward. This isn't legal. That clause was sealed. And now it's unsealed, Killian replied, calm. The room went still. Then Beckett did what narcissists do when cornered, he struck. Literally. He grabbed the decanter and hurled it at the fireplace. Glass shattered. Flames flared. None of this matters, he shouted. The valuation's already done. Axiom won't touch us after tomorrow. I stood. He looked at me. Smiled crooked. You think you've won? You don't even know what I buried under this place. Cut scene. That night, Marisol decrypted a backup drive retrieved from the Hayden archives. Old correspondence. A name surfaced. Chloe Armand. She'd been an assistant in legal. Fired abruptly 6 years ago. Guess what she's doing now? Marisol said. What? She's registered as head of Glendon Partners LLC. My blood ran cold. They built the shell under Hayden's own nose. Using former employees. Marisol nodded. They started this years ago, Everett. Before the blockchain scam. Before Omnicore. This isn't sabotage. No. It's a succession coup. Outside the Axiom office, the streetlights flickered once. Then again. The cameras caught nothing. But I felt it. You always feel it before it hits. I turned to Marisol. They're not just watching us anymore, I said. They're closing in. The first truck didn't arrive at dawn. That's how we knew it worked. Factories run on rhythm. You miss one delivery, supervisors make calls. Miss two, managers panic. Miss three, the board starts lying to itself. By 7:12 a.m., Hayden's Ohio plant was already bleeding. Cut scene. Axiom's war room pulsed with screens. Red. Yellow. Flashing. Marisol stood barefoot on cold concrete, sleeves rolled, hair tied back like she was about to operate on a living thing. Valve supplier in Dayton just invoked force majeure, she said. Legally clean. Contract allows suspension if IP is shared with competitors. And? I asked. And Beckett announced Hayden exchanged strategic partnerships last night. I nodded. Trigger it. She tapped once. Another screen turned red. Controller boards from Shenzhen are on hold. Customs delay clause. Again, legal. Cut scene. A call came in. Plant manager. Voice shaking. We're down 3 lines. No valves. No controllers. We've got metal and labor but nothing to assemble. I let the silence stretch. Not cruelty. Precision. How long until full shutdown? I asked. If we don't get parts 48 hours. I hung up. Marisol exhaled. You always said, if you want to stop a machine, don't touch the engine. Cut the fuel. Someone once told me power isn't loud, I said. It's patient. Cut scene. Beckett Hayden's face exploded across every financial feed at noon. Press conference. Atrium. Glass and light and arrogance. He stood at the podium like a man who'd never been told no. Today, he said, smiling too wide, we announce the future of logistics. Decentralized. Agile. Untethered from legacy constraints. Hayden Exchange logo lit up behind him. Applause. From interns. From sycophants. From people who didn't know the blood price of disruption. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. I answered. Enjoying the show? Beckett asked. I prefer the backstage, I replied. He laughed. You should have stayed quiet, Everett. Silence only works when you're invisible. I watched the feed as a producer whispered in his ear. His smile faltered. Cut scene. By 12:43 p.m., the second supplier pulled out. This one hurt. The Ohio valve plant posted a public notice, contract terminated due to breach of exclusivity. Stock dipped 2 points. Beckett's phone buzzed. He tried to keep smiling. Cut scene. Marisol slid a folder across the table. Lucy and Hart just signed, she said. Immunity agreement. He's flipping. Inside, sworn affidavit. Timestamped emails. Recorded calls. Lucian had been feeding Beckett intel for months, then quietly rerouted everything to us once Beckett threatened to scapegoat him. People don't betray loyalty, Marisol said. They betray fear. Cut scene. Night fell hard. Rain hammered the city like an accusation. I drove alone to the Hayden logistics plant. Didn't go inside. Didn't need to. From the car, I watched lights blink off, row by row, until the building looked hollow. A man once said that empires don't collapse in flames. They suffocate. Cut scene. My phone rang again. This time, no bravado. Fix this, Beckett snapped. Whatever you want. Board seat. Equity. Say a number. I leaned back. You don't understand, I said. This isn't leverage. This is anatomy. What does that mean? It means I didn't touch your head or your heart. I cut the arteries. Silence. Then, you'll kill my father's company. I closed my eyes for half a second. No, I said. You did. I'm just making sure it's documented. Cut scene. Marisol met me at the cemetery outside the city. Small. Private. Wind moving through old trees. My mother's headstone was clean. I'd had it polished years ago. She used to say, Marisol said quietly, that the loudest people are usually hiding from themselves. I nodded. She used to say something similar. That silence isn't empty, it's loaded. Cut scene. At 9:18 p.m., Omnicorp issued a statement. We deny any formal partnership with Hayden Exchange. The word formal did all the work. Marisol smiled thinly. Ray Nolan just cut Beckett loose. Of course he did, I said. Predators don't save prey. Cut scene. Security footage from the Hayden building hit my inbox. Beckett, alone in his office. Jacket off. Tie loose. Phone pressed to his ear. He slammed his fist into the desk. Then something else. He opened a drawer. Pulled out a hard drive. Black. Unmarked. Paused. Looked straight at the camera. For a second, the feed glitched. Then cut. Marisol stiffened. That wasn't on any inventory list. No, I said. That's what he thinks saves him. She looked at me. What now? I watched the screen go dark. When the truck stopped, I said, so does his legacy. I stood. Tonight, we turn off the oxygen. Light flickered across the atrium like a bad omen. Glass and steel. Cameras. Chairs lined in perfect rows. Reporters with phones raised like bayonets. Beckett Hayden stood at the podium. A grin so bright it could burn. Today, he said, voice smooth, we begin a new chapter. Hayden Exchange is the future of logistics. Decentralized. Liberated. Unbound by outdated models. A new era. The crowd leaned in. Cut scene. Behind Beckett, the Hayden Exchange logo flashed. Red. Pulsing. My phone buzzed. Message, system override applied. Live feed sent to encrypted channel. I didn't look. I already knew. Cut scene. Beckett took a breath just before the first alert sounded. A red bar. Across every screen. Security alert, data violation detected. Murmurs. He blinked. A second alert. Then a third. Then a voice, my voice, over the speakers. To predict the future, you must own the truth, I said, calm. But to protect the future, you must expose the lies. Gasps rippled. A new display flickered up beside his logo. Ledgers. Audio files. Timestamped emails. Evidence. Of theft. Of shell companies. Of unauthorized sharing with Omnicorp. Beckett's smile faltered. Cut scene. Somewhere in the back row, a reporter whispered. Legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you defend. The lights dimmed. Just enough. Beckett swallowed hard. You have no proof. But the screen blinked to a new feed. A recording. Beckett and Nolan. A private deal. His voice, cool. We crash their valuation. Then we step in. Rescue bid. All tech, all assets. Murmurs. And then the twist. Not from me. From the legal fold Killian Hayden had handed over in private session. Text on screen. Sealed succession override clause activated. Below it, one name in bold. Everett Calhoun. Beckett staggered. Like a man punched in slow motion. My pulse thudded in my ears. He was the face of the company. But never the spine. Cut scene. Killian stepped forward, slow. No cane. No hesitation. "Beckett," he said, voice colder than frostbite, "you were always the hype. But hype has no foundation." Beckett tried to retort. His voice cracked. "I am CEO." Killian shook his head. "You were never appointed. The override clause seats the vice president under internal existential threat. That threat is now confirmed." Beckett's fist slammed the podium. Glass rattled. A security guard flinched. Lights blinked. Cut scene. "None of this matters," Beckett shouted. "The market's already pricing us above expectations. Axiom can't step in now." A screen behind him updated livestock data. Ticker numbers rose. "Disconnect the feed," Beckett barked. But it was too late. On every monitor now, public filings streamed. SEC filings. Mandatory disclosures. Signed, notarized, and timestamped. By Beckett himself. Not forged. Not misattributed. His own signature. The room fell dead quiet. Cut scene. Marisol stood beside me. "No escape," she whispered. His own hand signed his fate. I didn't look at her. Instead, I watched Beckett. The man who thought he could burn the house and call it architecture. He stood alone. On a stage built from lies. The microphones picked up his next words. "They can't do this. I am Hayden. I am legacy." But he wasn't. Legacy doesn't belong to narcissists. Legacy belongs to those who defend truth under fire. Under the glare of cameras, Beckett's composure cracked. A bead of sweat traced down his temple. His security detail looked at each other like prey abandoned mid-hunt. Cut scene. Killian turned to me. Slow. Precise. "Everett," he said, "you have the floor." I stepped forward. No arrogance. No spectacle. Just truth laid bare. "Legacy isn't inherited," I said. "It's proven. And today, the company we honored for decades is being tested. Not by acquisition. Not by disruption. But by leadership. Real leadership." Flashbulbs popped. Some reporters took notes. Others stared in shock. Beckett stood motionless. Now a spectator in his own unraveling. Cut scene. Suddenly, Beckett leapt off the stage. Not toward me. Towards the nearest exit. But his path was blocked. Security guards converged. Hands gripped arms. He struggled. Shouted. "Dad! You can't do this!" Killian didn't flinch. His eyes were empty. Like a man who had seen truth too late. Cut scene. A single reporter asked the question that hung in the air like smoke. "What happens to Hayden now?" I didn't speak. Instead, I watched Beckett dragged out. His legs kicking. His grip slipping. His pride dissolving into the carpet. And then the final twist. Not legal. Not corporate. Personal. Beckett looked straight at me. Eyes wide. Breath ragged. And whispered. "You forget, there's more buried here." I felt it. A tremor in the room. A whisper at the edge of certainty. But I held steady. Silence, after all, is a weapon. And I was finally ready to use it. The courthouse lights never flicker. They hum. Constant. Indifferent. That's how justice sounds when it's done pretending to care about names. Beckett Hayden sat at the defense table in a navy suit that didn't fit anymore. Weight loss will do that. So will fear. His hands shook once, then stopped. A man can only panic for so long before his body gives up. Across the aisle, federal prosecutors stacked binders. Clean. Color-coded. Boring. That's how real endings happen. Not with explosions. With paper. Cut scene. The charges read like a biography written by Consequence. Wire fraud. Securities fraud. Conspiracy. Insider trading. Theft of trade secrets. Every count backed by his own emails. His own signatures. His own words. I didn't testify. I didn't need to. Someone once told me that the strongest truth is the one that doesn't need a witness. It stands on its own and dares you to lie. Beckett looked back once. Our eyes met. He expected something. Anger. Satisfaction. A speech. I gave him nothing. Silence is a verdict. Cut scene. Outside, cameras waited. Questions sharpened like knives. Mr. Calhoun, did you orchestrate this collapse? Is this revenge for the boardroom incident? Are you the new face of Hayden? I stopped at the steps. Rain began, light and precise. I didn't destroy a company, I said. I stopped one man from destroying it first. Flashbulbs cracked. I turned away. Cut scene. 3 weeks later, the boardroom smelled different. Less fear. More work. Hayden's interim board voted unanimously to approve the revised acquisition. Axiom took a controlling stake. Not a gutting. A stabilization. Every factory stayed open. Every union contract honored. I insisted on it. Power that feeds on collapse eventually starves itself. Marisol sat to my right. Calm. Centered. You could take the CEO seat, she said quietly. They'd support it. I shook my head. I don't need the crown to change the kingdom. She smiled. Then who does? I slid the folder across the table. Her name on the tab. She froze. You've been the spine since day one, I said. It's time the title caught up. There's a moment when someone realizes they've been seen for the first time. That moment is louder than applause. Cut scene. Killian Hayden retired without ceremony. No gala. No farewell tour. We met once more. Private. His study. The fire was gone. You didn't have to save the company, he said. I didn't, I replied. I saved the people inside it. He nodded. Slow. I raised a son who wanted to own the future, he said. I should have taught him how to protect it. Regret ages a man faster than time. Cut scene. 6 months later, Washington, D.C. The National Economic Forum. Marble halls. Polished smiles. 1,000 ambitions dressed as policy. I was late backstage when a commotion broke out near security. A voice rose. Nasal. Familiar. I'm telling you, I need to get these crates inside. I've got clearance. I stopped. There he was. Beckett. Khaki polo. Temporary staff badge. Clipboard clutched like a life raft. Older. Smaller. Hollowed. A security agent stepped in front of him. Sir, you're not authorized beyond this point. Beckett's eyes darted. Then he saw me. Time slowed. Just enough. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked at my suit. Looked at his badge. Someone once said that humiliation isn't being seen at your worst. It's being seen after you thought you mattered. I held his gaze. 3 seconds. Then I turned to the agent. I'm expected on stage. The agent nodded and moved Beckett back with a firm hand. I walked past him. Didn't look back. Cut scene. The lights hit hard. Warm. Blinding. Applause rolled like weather. I stepped to the podium. adjusted the mic. Out there, executives, lawmakers, workers watching the live stream from factory floors. People who thought power was loud. "Good morning," I said. The room settled. "We talk a lot about disruption," I continued. "But the truth is, most damage doesn't come from change. It comes from entitlement, the belief that inheritance is the same as merit." Heads nodded. "Silence isn't weakness," I said. "It's discipline. It's restraint. And when used right, it's the most honest weapon we have." A pause. Because silence listens. And listening is how you find the truth. Applause rose again. Louder this time. Cut scene. That night, alone in my office, I looked out at the harbor. Gray water. Moving forward. Always. I thought of my mother. Of the boy who learned early that being overlooked teaches you how to see everything. They thought my quiet meant surrender. They were wrong. I didn't win by shouting. I won by waiting. By watching. By letting the truth speak for itself. And when it finally did, I was already gone.